Uh, how's it going, everyone? Before I hear, welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Today, we've been fortunate to be joined by Robert Uttaro, and he's a rape crisis center counselor. He's been doing it for 15 years. He also has an undergraduate degree in criminal justice, and he's based in Boston, Massachusetts. He's also the author of the book To the Survivors, which is a must read, or not a must read, but it's an important read for those who have maybe experienced any type of sexual trauma, abuse, or for the general public that are just like awareness into the nature behind it and kind of the horrors and difficulties that people face. I feel like it's a very profound shift in your own personal understanding of life and trauma as a whole. But without further ado, Robert, let me hand it over to you. Tell us about yourself. What is your background in being a counselor? And yeah, what has the journey been like for you?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I think you just gave a pretty good background on myself. So thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really honored to be here with you today. And it's such a difficult topic to listen to talking about sexual abuse. So I just want to tell everyone out there, anyone who's listening, to please, if this is too much, turn it off. But if not, please do whatever it is that brings you peace during and after listen to this. That could be whatever it is, writing, music, dancing, watch TV, something. So yeah, I've been doing rape crisis counseling, advocacy, education officially in my 15th year as of now, and it's essentially a lifelong calling. So if I'm effective and if I am able to be effective, I will do this as long as I can. And I try my best in my own human weakness to help people affected by sexual abuse. That could be people who have been raped, sexually assaulted, molested, their significant others, or as you said earlier, just the general public. If I'm able to educate someone on some of the realities of what really happens and how it affects people, but how they can come out of it, how they can find healing in their own ways and live productive, healthy lives, then I would consider myself to be very blessed, and I'm very thankful to do the work. As depressing and heavy as it
Mm,
is, it's quite fulfilling and something I love, and it's sadly just a need all over the world for it.
hmm No, and that was very well said. And I just like to commend you on the personal strength and fortitude that you have to undergo quite the intense level of negativity and sadness that you have to experience. And so that actually brings me into kind of my next question. For those people that don't understand from the outside looking in, what is it actually like being a rape and sexual abuse counselor? Because
Mm.
you hear the stories, but for someone who goes through it on a daily basis, that must be a whole different type of experience. I don't know if you maybe just want to just speak on that, if you will, or if you can.
For me, it's not like a 9 to 5 job, every day, but it can happen at any time. So I could get an email at any time. I could be in my job and someone could disclose to me if we're doing educational workshops. Even the mention of sexual assault or even sex can
Mm,
trigger someone into horrific experiences, horrific memories, flashbacks. So you have to be able to respond if that happens. And so there's a whole wide range of emotions, and it can be as exciting when people are excited to see you and people are so thankful that you come and talk to them about an issue that is personal to them, or they've been begging for someone to talk about it where maybe their school doesn't, their parents don't, their church doesn't, whatever it could
mm,
be. So that's like, it's really exciting, and you can laugh with people, and you can bring light to them and have fun,
mm,
all the way to the extreme of someone breaking down, bawling, crying, wanting to kill themselves,
mm,
and being able to, if they let you, give them a nice hug, a loving embrace, and to wipe their tears and have them unload this thing on you, and they feel freer.
mm,
And that starts a massive path down healing. And so as heavy as it is, and it is a gift to be able to be with someone in that, in
mm,
simple terms. Um, but yeah, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that it hasn't affected me in
mm,
negative ways throughout my life, and it will continue to, but it doesn't mean you don't do it. right? So it doesn't mean I just stop because I have bad memories of experiences. I have flashbacks. I have nightmares as well too. I've been traumatized to a point of doing the work, but that doesn't mean I don't stop. It doesn't mean I stop. So I'll continue to do it. And anytime someone feels comfortable enough and they trust me enough to open up about anything, and it's not just rape and sexual assault, it's anything. That
Mm,
means that's a special thing because they trust you enough to share it with you and they need to get it out. And for whatever reason, they're not trusting or feeling comfortable with other people. So to me, the more we can have people who provide safe spaces, that provide comfort, that allow others to feel comfortable enough to open up about anything that afflicts them, we're genuinely and truly helping them in their life. And we don't know where that can go in their lives. If we don't, we're causing more destruction. We're causing more isolation, more pain.
no, and again, very, very hectic. And I guess this one may be a bit more on the difficult end, but what has it taught you, your job itself? What has it taught you about the nature of trauma? And more importantly, what has it made you realize about the importance of someone's childhood upbringing and their experiences in that critical phase? Because a lot of
Mm.
these things tend to pertain to younger people, unfortunately. But I mean, it's a broad spectrum. But yeah, I don't know.
So those are great questions. I mean, I have said I don't believe we have human words to truly describe sexual abuse and specifically childhood sexual abuse to really and trauma. There's different forms of trauma and there's different impacts of trauma. So, someone being child sexually abused as a child most likely or may have a different reaction or different memories or different effects than someone in a car accident or someone in war. But there
Hmm.
also may be similarities as well.
Hmm.
So it kind of varies depending on people. But what has it taught me about trauma? I equate this to evil as well,
Hmm.
where there are people who are committing consciously, committing acts of evil and willingly destroying human lives, children, the innocent. And so it's taught me how horrible we can truly be to each other.
Hmm.
It's taught me how loving we can be to each other. It's taught me how sensitive and how deep this pain really goes inside people and for how long.
Hmm.
There are different acts of trauma, and I'm not trying to compare traumas, but there are different things in life and different traumas that it might not necessarily affect like even consistently for life. But I have witnessed, I have experienced and met people that have their whole lives have been negatively affected from sexual abuse, even one act of it.
Hmm.
And and so often they actually blame themselves for it, where they don't even understand that it wasn't their fault, that someone else preyed upon them and affects their lives well into adulthood, even into possibly the elderly.
Hmm.
So the power of it, of how long it can be, how deep it can be, and how challenging it can be to combat it, to be able to really convince someone in their mind, body, heart, and soul, in their whole being, that they are not to blame, that they can recover from this, and that
Hmm.
it is simply not their fault that this happened to them, but it's not that simple for those who experience it. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And it's quite sad, obviously, just talking about it and how, you only realize the nature of trauma till you kind of go through it yourself, right? And so I guess it's just developing that empathy and understanding for what it truly is and how different, as you mentioned, it is for people.
Mm,
And you actually, which again, I thank you for sending me a copy of the book, but your book, To the Survivors, which is an account and a testimony, actual real life testimonies by people who have
mm,
gone through these ordeals. I'm still in the process of reading it. It's obviously quite, honest. It's a bit depressing. It's a bit heavy to read,
mhm,
and it's
mhm,
not it's
mhm.
not your typical book that you just go in with, with a degree of enthusiasm. But from what I took,
You don't go to the beach on a vacation and just read the book. Most likely,
no,
most people
no,
don't do that. I
no,
understood. Yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
But what I took just from your writing style and your tone, it's given me great insight into the level of empathy that you have, which I would like to really commend you on. It's very rare that you meet people who genuinely care for someone else's suffering without not necessarily having any type of association with it. We throw around the word empathy these days in our society, and people say, "Oh, I'm empathetic because I feel for this person." A lot of the times, it's not a genuineness to it, but from the anger and the frustration that you convey is quite astounding.
Mm.
And even willingly sharing your own personal background, your own personal upbringing, your own difficulties, that's also not easy to be vulnerable and sensitive like that. So, for
Mm.
those of you, before I ask the questions, I do recommend that you give it a read. I do believe that it will bring a certain level of humanness to you and a certain level of understanding that, life is quite difficult on many degrees for people, and maybe a lot more empathy is needed when handling others. But with that being said, what inspired you to write the book, and how difficult was it to put into words the pain of and experience of others, to write someone else's suffering, for someone else to read? That is not an easy thing to do.
What inspired the book was a dream I had. I never wrote before this. I had a dream. I woke up from that dream. I took it as a vision from God, and
Mhm.
I started writing. I opened up Microsoft Word, um, and I wrote to the survivors. And I had no idea what it would be. I had no idea how I'd get there. I didn't know how to write a book.
Mhm.
Um, I I knew two things in that moment. I knew that Jesus would be a part of it, and I knew that true
Mhm.
stories of people would be in it. That's all I knew. And
Mhm.
so, even when you talk about the vulnerability, the book, you, in my opinion, you should never talk about or deal with rape and sexual assault disingenuous way and something that's not
Mhm.
real and something that's not true. It has to be true. And if you don't like it, okay. If you don't like someone swearing and someone admitting their own anger and emotions, that's fine. But that's not what I chose to do, and
Sorry,
people
we're just
really
having
do
a bit of
feel.
we just had a bit of issue with the signal there. Okay, but I
Oh,
think we're
that's
all
okay.
good. I think we're all good now.
Can you
Sorry,
hear me
continue.
now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. You can continue. Sorry about that.
Well, some people will get upset over profanity when in reality, you're not understanding what someone else has experienced. So you're mad that they're expressing themselves in an angry way, but they were raped, they were sexually abused, their whole childhood was taken from them. Um, so yeah, for me, it had to be, I had to do it honestly. Will always be thankful to everyone who contributed to the book, who trusted me to share it in the book for you, for anyone who chooses to open it up for the world, if that's something they choose to seek out.
Mm,
Um, because I believe there's power in truth, and their stories resonate. My writing doesn't necessarily resonate with people, or with many people, or it might with some, but it's not others. But my hope has always been that their stories, the truth of their stories, will impact someone that really needs it. And if
mm.
so, again, that's just a blessing to me, and I'll always be thankful to them.
And how has it shaped you as an individual? Because it's one thing to be in a live session where someone conveys there's the raw experience of something, someone is grieving in front of you or breaking down in front of you, but there's a whole different experience when you write it, and when you tend to write, you tend to reflect much more deeply on something. And that reflection obviously impacts your own understanding of yourself. So how is that process of writing this book shaped you as an individual?
You just made me realize I didn't even answer part of your question, so I apologize. I How difficult was very difficult to write the book. But the most difficult parts of it were the stories, because I would record it. So if they didn't provide their written stories, it was a record. So I have to play it, stop,
Mm,
type it, think, did I get it right, go back, and then
mm,
just come flowing out of me, which is painful, but also probably healthy to get
mm,
some of the things out of me that I was keeping inside.
mm,
How has it shaped me as an individual? Working with rape and sexual assault has made me, I would say, a better man, a better human being. It has
mm,
made me more empathetic, more compassionate. It's made me more patient. It's made me more gentle. It's made me see things that sometimes other people don't see. Could be in a bar where people are out drinking, or at a party, or in a
Mm,
school setting, or different environments, or again, even in a church.
mm-hmm.
It's helped me to be more aware, and that can be dangerous at times because sometimes I might think something that isn't really going on,
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, okay, no, no, that's not. So I definitely go in the dark path that way. But it's definitely made me more aware and just a better, I think, a better and a more well-rounded, again, man and human being, and hopefully even better to men and to women and to children to be more gentle. It's helped me to be more
Mm,
gentle. And the book has helped me to be able to connect with and impact people I never would be able to, such as this interview now.
mm,
It's such a gift. There's we could discuss technology at length, and some things that are amazing with technology and other things that can be hurtful and damaging people.
mm,
But this is one element that I think is a great thing about technology, to be able to speak with you in South Africa and to connect with
mm,
these issues. So having a book be able to do that and to impact people, hopefully in positive ways that I would never be able to meet,
mm.
is just a gift to me, and I'm again just very thankful for it.
No, incredible. The healing process, you know, everyone has their own journey of healing. And like you said, in different degrees of trauma, different trials and tribulations. Through your own lens, what has the healing process looked like from your perspective as a counselor? Oh, I don't know if we lost you. I hope we didn't.
Sorry, now
I think we may just having some signal
you coming
issues.
out a little bit. Yeah. So I hear you.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, I'm just gonna
We back?
switch. 2 seconds. I just need to
Ooh, that's okay.
reestablish signal here and then connect, and then this should work. All right. 2 seconds. Sorry about that, Africa. Now it should be stable. So yeah, sorry, you can go on and answer the question. Sorry about that.
No, no, that's okay. Did you ask what's the healing process like?
Yeah, what does the healing process look like from your perspective as a counselor?
It really varies. Um, for some people, it's keeping them alive
Mm,
and that they haven't committed suicide. Um, for other people, it's being able to date someone.
mm,
For other people, it's even getting off depression medication. Um, for some people, it's exercise that they went for a 10-mile run and they feel great. It really varies, and people have just different needs, and even at different times. So for one person, at one moment in time, it could be suicide. At another moment in time, it could be helping them with their own eating. At one moment
mm,
in time, it's really discussing faith and
mm,
their faith in themselves and their questions of God.
mm. Signal is quite bad, but I think we just paused again. But I'm sure it'll come back. Hello. Sorry about that. Apology.
That's all right.
Another terrible thing about it. It just sometimes doesn't cooperate.
That's
But I think
okay.
we're good
That's okay.
now. Sorry about that. And I
Okay.
know it's quite an intense topic, so being cut off when you're kind of going through the thinking process is not right. But sorry, you can continue.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It really varies on different people. And one woman recently, some people, they question, they never went to the police, don't want to go to the police, and now they're questioning someone in their past might come into their life and they're asking them questions, and they fear that this might end up in a criminal case. So it really does vary on people, but I think one thing that's vitally important and really necessary is attempting to help people with their with
Mm,
shame, guilt, and self-blame. And these are things that, in my experience, I've seen consistently amongst people, and how their view of themselves is so often not the way I see them or the way other people see them, and even having them question, how does God see you? And so
mm,
it's very important
mm,
um, to help them try to get through that. And so that's part of the healing process is simply really putting blame somewhere else. And but if people don't, if they consistently think they should have done this, could have done that, everything they did was wrong, it's a really sad and painful, just negative, for lack of a better word, just cycle, a consistent lifestyle of negativity, and that they're so down. And so that really affects their choices. It affects their life. It affects who they can date and marry, and possibly their work or their environment or their families. So that's a big part of healing, is trying to be able to really help people understand the truth about it. I work in a field of truth and lies.
mm.
In very simple terms, there's truth and there's lies in this world. And I've said this to grown adults, and I said this to teenagers. There
Just
often it ultimately isn't. So helping people understand the truth versus the lies is necessary.
and I actually didn't have these. I didn't actually have these as questions, but I feel maybe inclined to ask if I may.
Yeah.
Um, there are two things. Number one was in our society that we live in, it's quite. Do you believe that a lot of the material that we consume, the sexual nature of it, is somewhat of a root cause to some of the issues that end up resulting in having to support the people that you do? The sexual nature of maybe movies or music videos or things like that,
Mm.
where they kind of promote in a sense, maybe derogatory acts towards, whatever gender, whatever, I don't know, it's different out there. And
Mm.
um how yeah, I'll just maybe stop at that one. Because that's just
So I believe in the possibility. I do believe that some elements of our society and our media can impact people's choices. I think that's fair to say. We know that in certain ways, but at what level is different. And so, I would say that, sure, I would believe that even pornography can impact people, movies.
mhm,
So the evil crime of sexual violence has existed as long as human beings have been around. So
mhm,
I would say I don't deny that there's impacts in the world, but it's also happened well before this.
mhm,
I can watch a movie on violence and murder and gangs, but it doesn't mean I'm going out to get a gun and shoot. It doesn't mean that someone doesn't, right?
mhm.
But it doesn't mean it must equate to that.
I hear you. Again, apologies everyone for the signal. We're just struggling a bit with
Maybe they don't. Oh.
no, no, that was just when it pause frames, I'm just letting the audience know that he might be pause framed, and then it's a signal thing. But sorry, you can continue, man. Don't worry.
so
It's all you.
so yeah, we are absolutely impacted by things we hear, but it also doesn't have to necessarily dictate our lives and our choices.
No,
That's why
and
hopefully we think, we use our brains, we do research ourselves, we come to our conclusion. It's flawed. So it is ideally, if we can try our best and try to understand what truth is and go from there.
And this one's maybe more on just a personal note, and I think a lot of people may be able to take some type of inspiration from this. How have you managed to harmonize what you experience in your field and just I guess re-amalgamating with normal life, regular stories, normal, you could say in
Mhm.
quotation marks, normal people and their typical stuff. It's tough, because a lot of people that go through the main part of it, why people get depressed and isolated, is because they can't resonate with someone else's. And it's not even a thing, it's just this question of
Mm,
circumstance. Sometimes the language someone speaks is just so different from yours. It's really difficult for you to be able to act, to be steady, to be sane, to be, it takes a lot
mm,
of work to, reorganize yourself into organized society. And so I don't know what your thoughts are on that aspect.
mm. I'd like to believe I'm hopefully a normal person, but maybe I'm not because I might be completely crazy. So but I, it's a really interesting question because there are definitely times that I do not feel normal, that I like this thing and I have these experiences and I have when people unload such deep pain in like from their souls, like from the depth of their existence to
Mm,
me, I could be in a room with someone that people that don't have those experiences. So sometimes it's can be challenging and sometimes I have to check myself and be like, dude, you got to stop because you can't, and I shouldn't even blame anyone for not understanding because they might not simply understand, which is
mm,
okay. And on the flip side, it's special because then you're able to impact some an issue where other people might not be. So
mm,
sometimes people will call me in for extreme cases or really horrific things.
mm,
Again, even in the school system, and that's awesome to be able to be that person and to also hopefully help other people that care about this, but they might not be trained in it or they might not be comfortable enough to work with, youth with sensitive topics or parents or whatever it might be.
mm,
Um, so it's a range. I think there's definitely moments. I think I'm hopefully more like I don't bring up like a lot of people don't even know what I do.
mm.
So there's a lot of people in my life that don't know what I do, and then they find out they might know me for like 5 years, and then they're like, you what? You you do what? I'm like, oh well, why would I bring it up? Like it didn't come up in conversation. I'm not gonna have like, you know what I mean?
I
I'm
hear
making
you.
pasta for someone like, hey, let me talk to you about rape right now. I just don't do that,
I hear you,
So
man. I hear you.
but it can come up. So yeah, it's and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes it definitely really affects me and people might not understand. I don't want to unload that on them either. So
Mm,
to kind of hopefully answer your question maybe full circle is for me, and you said it earlier, my strength really comes from God for me
mm,
personally. Me
mm,
personally, my strength comes from God. It's why I've done this in the first place. It's I don't work with rape and sexual assault without God. And so God has allowed me and to continue to do it, to continue to strengthen me in it because I'm very weak many
mm,
times, and to continue to stay um positive and even in dark times to continue to go, to keep going because
mm,
this world is just very difficult. Life can be very difficult. Even people with money can still have serious problems.
mm,
And so there's all going to die one day. We're all those of us that are here. So as painful as things can be, one of my messages hopefully is to keep going. And one of my
mm,
messages with even people struggling with suicide and sexual abuse and trauma
mm,
is to just stay alive. As long as you're
mm,
here, there's always a chance.
mm,
Because if you kill yourself, you're gone and there is no coming back from that. Okay.
mm,
It doesn't even matter to me what you believe. You are dead.
mm,
So as long as you stay here, we can figure stuff out. And so and we all make mistakes. So as long as we just continue to try, work as hard as we can, and
mm,
live out our lives, don't take our lives by our own hands because we are going to die anyway.
mm,
That to me is hopefully powerful enough for people to try to really understand that people, sadly, many people kill themselves over so much pain and these
mm,
lies that are deeply affecting them. But get through it. You can get through it. Nothing that you've experienced is unspeakable. And you don't have to do this alone. And you'll see where
mm.
your life will go. You'd be shocked at how far you can go in life.
Wow, and that's really powerfully said. That's really, really well said. Thank you. And I guess that actually, brings me to just contacting you. obviously, where can people access your book if they're located outside of North America or Europe?
Mhm.
In Africa, I'm sure, I don't know if you maybe seen, but there's a huge not necessarily issue now because a lot of attention is being drawn to it. But the amount of rape that happens here is absolutely shocking. They actually did if I recall, a few years ago, they did a experiment, not experiment, but they did a test on the radio. Every time a beep came, that was a rape being reported to the police, and it was ridiculous. There were almost 300 beeps in the space of an hour or 2 hours. It's
Mm.
just to give people the insight into just how terrible it is. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's just the reality. And again, like you said, this is just what's reported, not what's not said. That's not what's, And so,
Mhm.
how can people access your book, and also where can they learn more about you, and
Mhm.
maybe even get in touch with you? Because, just speaking to you, I guess you have the ability to understand where someone's coming from. This is obviously just a podcast, but some things you say behind closed doors. So if people do end up reaching out to you, where can they access you, or is there an email address? Is there a website? Yeah.
So I believe this is more than a podcast. I really believe in what you and I have shared today, and I'm very thankful. And what you just shared, breaks my heart because to hear that and to think someone just got raped, and that's
Mm,
just a report.
mm,
We're talking about the least reported violent crime in the world, and we're talking about a crime that is so often hidden.
mm,
It's hidden in secrecy. It's hidden in shame, and so often there's not evidence of it happening, but it happens, and it happens all the time. And you said about Africa, and of course, and it's in Africa, it's in India, it's in Thailand, it's all over the world. It's in America.
mm,
It's everywhere, and
mm,
it evil just doesn't discriminate. It's not
mm,
about race and ethnicity. It's not even about age or money and socioeconomics. We're talking about an evil issue. We're talking about a human issue. I would argue
mm,
it's a spiritual issue.
mm,
So what you just said is part of the reason my book, like maybe the main reason my book is free on my website.
mm,
So if anyone in Africa is interested in this, that they can purchase a copy, but they can have it for free. So
mm,
I do have an ebook free on my website, robertuttaro.com. I really believe in giving things for free to begin with, but
mm,
if someone's impacted and someone's struggling, and if they can connect with it, that if they choose it and want it, they can have it.
mm,
So yeah, you can To the Survivors is on online outlets. You can go to Amazon. You can buy it,
mm,
but you can have it free, and you can share it for free, and you
mm.
can spread it to people, and that is vitally important to me.
And thank you for that. And I do believe the universe, it gives back in its own ways. There's
Mhm.
no, as much as there are a lot of negative deeds that happen, there's also no good deed that goes unnoticed. And it's a subtle
Mhm.
thing. It's not an obvious thing. But I know, I guess in closing, because it'll be honestly great to have you on again, perhaps even at a later stage with perhaps someone who's kind enough, willing enough to share their own, how they overcame it. And, it's obviously a vulnerable space, but I think that would be good to see the rawness of it and also see the transformative aspect of it. What are your words of wisdom and advice for anyone listening?
Hmm. To s- to to stay alive, to look deep within your heart and follow it, and to seek love and to seek truth. And if you're hurting, if you're struggling, and if you've been abused, if you've been assaulted, if you've been hurt by someone else,
Mm,
to hopefully think about what we're saying today, to think about it, question it, wrestle with it, scream at me if you want, but try to deal with what it is internally, and to seek
mm,
help from someone that genuinely will try to help you, that
mm,
genuinely cares about you. And if you get treated poorly, that you find someone else,
mm,
that it doesn't affect you, and that you internalize again for possibly another 5, 10, 30 years. because there will be people who will not listen to you. There will be people who will not believe you, and there will be people who will treat you poorly and blame you.
Mm,
But that doesn't mean all will.
mm,
So if that happens to you, take it for what it is. Listen, please listen to someone else. Think there's another way out there, and reach out. Don't suffer alone. You're not alone in this ever.
and just wanted to say thank you, Robert. Really, again, I guess now you really understand the nature of conversations from the heart. I feel like this was definitely one of those interviews. Obviously, you didn't really go into the nasty details of everything, which I also feel is perhaps a good thing, actually.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm wishing you all the best as you continue to push this initiative forward. It's really a big thing. It is. I've known people who have been affected by it, and it's quite a hectic thing. And it can be the difference between something good or very bad. That's the reality of it. And so it's that part in between that's the most important. I think that's what we're talking about, the part in between everything. The outcomes, if you will. I feel like that is understood through the conversation and through what you've shared and through this book that you've put out. So I'm truly wishing you the best. I believe everything happens in its own divine timing, its own way. And I hope people who tune in, they do take something from it. And this is the beauty of technology. I think that's the one thing we need to take most advantage of. So it'd be great to have you on again. And again, man, thank you. Thank you so much for willing to share your experience. It's not your world is not everyone's typical world, and I don't think most people would want it to be that way. But again,
Mhm.
you meet unique people who have a very powerful connection to their spirit, and that's what guides them to do things which are, I guess you'd say, uncommon. And that's what the world probably needs the most, especially with issues regarding, this matter. So thank you so much. It's been really good. It's been really good.
Thank you very much. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that you know people. How are they doing?
And again, it's private how someone, what people go through in life. But I've even dated a few people, not a few people, people. And I guess the outcome is they're alive, plain and simple. And there's no there's no greater, achievement than that. Um, Again, it's the thing that you can't understand because if you haven't gone through it, you're only the anchor on the outside. But what I've learned from it, if that to answer your question, is that it just depends on the nature of the person's heart and their willingness to believe in themselves again and to really fight for their own salvation, if that makes sense. I know it's maybe not very, it doesn't sound supportive the way it's coming out, but it's more in tune with what I've understood how life works with people and their different issues. It's developing the inner strength and fortitude. And I'm sure you've witnessed it through the different people that you've seen, the ones that have been fortunate to make it out. There's something that's within them that ultimately it's not a mental, it's a mental thing, but it goes beyond that because there's certain
Mm,
difficulties where your body will falter, your emotions will falter, your mind will falter. But that thing, and you can define it however you want to call it. I'm not here to promote anything, but I would call it spirit. You could call it, we could call it God in truth.
mm,
Um, Everyone, that thing is what usually, or what I've witnessed to be the thing that has been the difference. Everything else
mm,
is just an external, so it's external support structure, but at the end of the day, it can only be an external support structure. It's the inner being that really determines the good and bad out of a situation. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, and I again thank you for this, but I also it sounds like to me, they've told you for a reason, and you are very compassionate, empathetic, and you care, and that so often the time is the difference and can
Mm,
play quite a role in
mm,
people getting to what you're saying.
mm,
because you can imagine why people are that way, and you
mm,
can imagine why people don't believe in themselves
mm,
at all, and simply do want to die. You
mm,
can see how people can get there. So again, the more we can be present with them, listen to them, and uh, try our best. But ultimately,
mm,
it's on individuals. I can't make someone
mm,
do something. Like it
mm,
truly, I could bring someone to therapy, but it doesn't mean they're going to participate. So
mm.
I hear that, but if you think this book is helpful and if you think this interview is helpful, please spread it to people that need it, and hopefully it is, and that they may spread it to others, and we really impact people one person at a time.
No, and then again, thank you so much. I know this is again, you told you don't mention to people what you do, but I think now that you're coming on to podcasts and really sharing your work, it'll help people. It definitely will. It definitely will. I think it's just one of those things that just needs to be put out there. So yeah, Robert, thanks so much, and it's been awesome. Have a blessed rest of the weekend, and again, it'd be great to have you on, and continue on the discussion and also sharing the positive, the good that has come. I think that'll impact even greater. So yeah,
I would love it. Let me know.
no problem.